these are the color changing angel eyes. I'm gonna show you how to install them in a 3000 GT VR4 right now. What's up guys, I'm Chris from FlyRyde.com and I build custom lights showing you what parts I use, how I install them, and why I chose those parts. And a lot of times it's super important to choose the right parts, like these little angel eyes right here from Profile. So these are gonna change colors. They're gonna do a super bright white color. They do a lot of cool stuff that we hook up to Bluetooth. And huge shout out to our buddies at Throttle. This is gonna be on their channel as well. So I might not get super technical over there, but for right here on the FlyRyde channel, kind of what it's all about. So Evan actually had to restore these headlight lenses. And the first couple tries when he did it, it didn't work out well. So they ended up using a clear film. Looks great. He didn't want it to get messed up in the oven, so I used the heat gun on the first light. I saw how it was sealed. It looked like it was safe, so I used the oven on the second one. We're gonna preheat the oven to 220. So here's all the different little clips all throughout the edges, and all they are is a little metal clip. There's no screws or anything that holds this lens down. So literally, once we heat it up enough, we're just gonna lift it straight off. You don't want something that's gonna transfer the heat from the oven directly to this plastic right here. So always just use some 2x4s. And if they get too dry or messed up, or I don't know, they smell weird, toss them. This is a super small light, so it should fit in any kind of oven, especially this monster. So that's it for now. We're gonna wait for 5 minutes, check it, make sure that everything looks good, make sure that that clear film on top isn't looking strange, and it might be ready to open up. We move this camera, get up close and personal, we'll tear this lens off. Now normally I never wanna use a tool to pry. In this case, all I'm actually doing is I'm using that tiny little curve and sliding it along the seam here. Since nothing's screwed into this, there's nothing that really keeps it on aside from just the pressure and the clips after the glue has settled down. Okay, I've got the top seam, the side seam, and that seam all pretty much lifted, so I'm gonna put them back in the oven for another 4 minutes. That should make it super easy now to just grab the edge, rip it off, and we'll be ready to install. Oh yeah. This is perfect now. Open sesame. Something to think about too, these things are all metal and my hand has slipped so many times trying to scoot along. You could really cut yourself hardcore. So gloves like those ones that I'm not wearing. Yeah, just be careful. Oh yeah, buddy. Cool. Again, all I'm gonna do with the screwdriver is just work my way along. I'm not bending down. I'm not trying to like force it really hard in any one spot. Just kind of creating this little teeny gap and trying not to slip and stab myself. Okay, here we go. Make sure all that little glue right there, you want to be careful that you don't scratch that part as you're taking the glue. Not a big giant project to take that lens off. Making a video about it kind of seems ridiculous at some point because it was just so easy, but I will say, if you've never done something like this, it doesn't hurt to start with some basic info. If you've watched a lot of my other videos, you know this is very, very basic install stuff. We've got a little ball joint right here in the corner, and then we've got a screw here, and we've got 2 little tabs down there. Perfect. Those projectors, we don't want anything to get on here, so for right now, put this lens lightly back on top. Set it to the side, and now we have this to install angel eyes on. So here's our angel eye, and it's always a smart move no matter what part you're installing, if it has anything to do with custom lighting, to first plug it in before you install it. Make sure that the thing works before you mount it, and then if there's any issues, you're not sure if you caused them or if it was something that was caused as a manufacturer defect. If you know anything about RGB products, that means red, green, blue. We've got 1 wire for each color. Now this black one is actually a power wire. Then we've got a ground for red, blue, and green. So we're just gonna test those. So I'm gonna connect these up to power and ground, test them first, and then assuming everything works the way that it should, we'll install them. So here's green, here's blue, and here's red. And if you combine any of these wires, like the red, green, and blue, you'll actually get different colors. So we've got blue and red together. Oddly enough, if you do red and green together, it gives you yellow. And then we get teal if we do green and blue together. Then the last function is if we do all the colors together, we actually get a pretty dope looking white color. I'm a big fan of installing parts and not showing any evidence that they've been installed. So you don't want to see tape, You don't want to see glue, you don't want to see screws, anything like that. We're gonna solder on some little legs to these angel eyes so that they can actually attach onto that plastic bezel that we just pulled out. And that's gonna be what keeps the angel eyes in place all the time so they never fall out. There's no glue, there's nothing that can just give up and fall. We're gonna make sure that it's perfectly aligned so that you can't see that little tab in the corner. It's gonna be like this. This stuff, it's pre-tinned, which means solder basically just immediately sticks to it. This is a 22 gauge and it's solid, which means if we run it through the little holes on the mount, it'll solder right to it and it'll stay put perfectly. Each one of these little legs has a hole in it, and that hole actually has a little bit of metal around it as well. So we've got that guy perfectly run through it. We're gonna make a tiny little hook bending towards the outside edge. Now that it's on there, we just gotta add a little bit of solder, and I'm gonna bend it a little bit more just to keep it absolutely tight and perfect as it can be. A little bit of solder already on the tip, and then we're gonna add it to that little piece of tinned wire on the top and just below the hole. Perfect. It's nice and tight. I'm gonna do the other two and then we can see about mounting this. And here's an alternative method to mount them. This is a video I shot quite a while back, and it just shows where I drilled holes through the front of the part and I ran the wires and those little legs out the back, then bent them down into place so that it can hold on tight. Get a nice clean little flush mount. Now in this case, we've got a completely different style of bezel, so we're gonna mount the part a lot different. All right guys, as always, if you're getting any value, if you're learning, if this is stuff that you wanna see more of, definitely hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I told you guys I was gonna be doing promo codes that only exist for 1 hour, so you have to be on the notification squad. So definitely hit that bell notification icon. And right now, if you go to FlyRyde.com, you can use the promo code VR4. And that will give you 10% off the LED bulbs. Now, because I know almost all of you missed that opportunity, I'm gonna give you a link over to the Throttle channel. This video is gonna be played over there as well, and I'm giving them a promo code that you can find by visiting that video. All right, let's get back into it. Now, because I know that the wires are coming out of one side of this ring, and I know that you can't see the top angle, I'd rather have the wires coming out the back on top. Because what'll happen is any possibility that you could see them if they were mounted on the bottom, you've got these wires right here. I don't even want to chance that. I want them to be completely hidden, ninja style. Nobody knows that these things are in there until they're on and they're looking awesome. So we're gonna mount them with the wires coming out the top, and then we'll route them over the projectors and out the back of the light. Okay, so I've got this little leg. I'm gonna bend it over and lay it down right here on the bezel. And if I do a good job, I will perfectly hide those two little tabs from the other corners of the ring. But if I wanna get it perfect, I need to first put this thing into place. So I'm gonna put a little piece of tape on there, and this is not what's gonna stay in place, but for right now, it's gonna hold it so that I can make sure everything's good. And at the very end, we're gonna use a 2-part epoxy JB Quick, which is gonna permanently make sure that these little legs never come undone. You can also melt them into the plastic, which sometimes is a really better way to do it. But in this case, if we melt too far, you're gonna see it on the bezel itself. Top one is in place. Now we've got these two legs. Now they're facing the wrong direction. So this leg and this leg, they need to be wrapped around the side of the plastic here. So we gotta tape this down, and then we're gonna hit it with epoxy at the last step. Now I wanna make sure I have both rings ready to go first, because when I mix up that epoxy, I don't wanna waste any as it sets up and gets too hard to use. One thing that I did do was I took the rubber caps off the back so that I could easily just run all of these wires right over the top of the projectors. Normally I would want to seal everything up inside the light, but there's no access to it, which means if there's ever any reason if these drivers screw up or the angel eyes aren't doing what they're supposed to, we will have no way of modifying anything without completely opening up the housing again. So if you look, the very bottom of this thing, it's not sitting as low as it wants to. It's because those projectors can't push into the bezel like they used to now that there's a ring blocking the way. So hopefully we're gonna be able to clamp these things down. First thing, we need to add a bunch of butyl to them. The last step is dusting everything off.
I've got one thing on my mind. I already hear the bells. Everything about you calling out to me. I got to hold ya. Baby, I'm not running around looking for nobody else. I've got one thing on my mind. I already hear the bells. I'm a victim of love calling out to heaven above for ya. I mean every little word. I can't get you out of my mind. Oh baby, every curse like a new adventure, pulling me into the center closer. Yeah, baby, I'm not playing around. I mean every little word. I can't get you out of my mind. Oh baby, every curse got me going crazy. Can't control it, cannot see it. Oh man.
If you don't want all of your hard work to go to waste and everything to get fried because water gets in there and bad stuff happens, you're gonna want to use something like this. This is a product called Retro Rubber. It's rubber butyl. I have a weird little machine over here that I use, and it heats it up and dispenses it, and it's super dangerous, and you should never ever have that tool. But if you don't want to go spend crazy money on something like that, this stuff is available to everyone, and it's just a little roll. So it comes with as much as you need to do a set of lights. It's just pretty simple, easy to work with. I will show you exactly what you would do if you were resealing your lights. So all we're gonna do is take this rubber butyl rope. As we push it into place, we're just gonna kind of stretch it a little bit. As you stretch it, it thins out. This is an import style headlight. Most of them are sealed with rubber butyl already. And so we're gonna be able to just stretch this out and have one nice consistent path all the way around the lights. And then we're gonna heat it up and then put the lens on, and they will be sealed and safe against all those bad things out there. All right, so check it out. Here's my beef with a lot of builders. You see lights, they look cool, but they never want to show you the back of the light or the wire harness, the things that actually control this. The wire harnesses suck to make, but they're so important. So let me show you the back of these things. I think it's super dope the way that these things can be installed with 2 little clips each, and everything just works. Look at, see how simple? Look at that. That's crazy. So here's the back of the light. There is nothing special whatsoever going on here. It's just got the 2 little pigtails for each angel eye. If I'm being honest, I got a little carried away yesterday with this harness because I had all these drivers. I wanted them to be inside the lights, but they couldn't be. And I don't know, I wanted this thing to function a little bit special. So I took a little 12-volt remote setup. This thing just hooks up to power and ground at the battery, but I also wanted to make a separate little trigger, this white wire here, that I could run down to the parking lights, so that as soon as those things get powered up normally, like with the headlight dial, it turns on the white angel eyes, and keep the function of Bluetooth, which is done with this little XK Chrome Mini. So lots of stuff. We've got 4 different manufacturers' parts all bunched into one wire harness. I even wanted to lengthen the wires so that the output from these things went perfectly to the passenger headlight, and then a little bit longer to go to the driver's side headlight. All that work had to be done after the fact, which can take hours. So definitely something to be said about taking the time to make the install easy for shops or whoever's gonna do the install. In this case, someone's gonna own this VR4. And wouldn't that suck if there's just a huge rat nest of wire in there just to make these cool functions happen? I think it should be simple. So I'm just gonna quickly plug in the lights like they would be on the car, power and ground at the battery. And the last step is there's a ground wire attached to the Angel Eye drivers. That's it. 2 grounds, 1 power, and it's all set to go. And then if you remember, the one function that I wanted to add was automatic white angel eyes as soon as the parking lights are turned on. So this little extension wire will go down to the bulb on the side of the bumper, and as soon as that bulb turns on, these things will turn on automatically. Plus, if you want to, you can still turn on the red with 1 push of the remote control button. And if you use the app, you can switch from white to any color you want. All right, again, big shout out to Throttle. Thank you guys for always inviting me to come down there and be a guest in that beautiful home of yours. I'll see you soon. We'll be installing the lights on the VR4. What I really want to do, I want to take the RX-8 and the VR4, maybe do the Supra and a couple other ones, and play with them on the same remote control and just control a ton of cars all with the XK Chrome app. That'd be dope. What do you think, XK Glow? Gotta do more of that stuff. All right, guys, I'll catch you in the next one.